Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service and your time today. Secretary Carter, we talked in June about, as an airman, my concerns about not using air power for all that it brings to the fight. My concern about doing that in a weak way. We sort of disagreed on that, but it seems like there's been a slight change since then. ISIS's strength is that they're a state. Their weakness is also that they're a state, as you mentioned, General Dunford. I feel like part of our challenge is we're stuck in a counterinsurgency mindset, and although we need to have a force on the ground afterwards, we need to take them out as a state, not as a counterinsurgency. And the discussion of how you've been studying the oil infrastructure, I mean, this reminds me of air campaign planning I went through when I was a young officer. You identify those center of gravities or critical capabilities or vulnerabilities, and then you unleash American air power in a way that overwhelmingly goes after them to defeat them in a way that takes away their capabilities. So I don't understand why that study wasn't done. It was done in the spring. Why that wasn't done 17 months ago when they declared a caliphate, or 15 months ago, or 10 months ago. I mean, we're just now realizing oil trucks are moving. And I mean, it's been reported since the very beginning. It's been $1 million a day funding their terrorism. By my math, that's about $500 million that potentially they've been put into their coffers to fund and export terror. So I'm deeply concerned about the lack of using American air power for all it brings to the fight. We've averaged about 15 strikes a day. We've heard about cumbersome approval processes, unnecessarily high rules of engagement, where pilots are going home and not hitting legitimate targets because we want no civilian casualties, as opposed to the law of armed conflict, which is very clear to hit those targets, hit them hard, and destroy and defeat them where they are. The concern and the problem is, I hear you're saying something's changed, but you mentioned a snowball effect. The snowball's been going in their direction for the last 17 months. I serve on Homeland Security as well. We've got 30,000 foreign fighters. We've got 200,000 pro-ISIS social media posts a day. We have 900 cases in all 50 states right now for homegrown extremists. It looks like they're taking on American air power and they're winning. And that has added to their propaganda. It's added to their metastasizing. It's added to the sort of romantic approach of recruiting people to join the fight. The only thing worse of not engaging is to engage weakly. And I really feel weakly, W-E-E-K. And I really feel that we have added to that by being weak on the military side. It sounds like you're saying things have changed, but in addition to the changes you mentioned, are we changing the cumbersome approval process? Can we feel a confidence that we're going to unleash and unshackle American air power and not just be in this limited sort of impotent mindset?
Congresswoman, I think to the extent that you're asking, are we going to unleash air power, we will. In terms of cumbersome approval processes, where we find those kinds of things, I can tell you, I can assure you, I will help personally to try to cut through it. That's not what I'm getting now. With regard to collateral damage, though, I don't think in this fight we should apologize for bringing our values to the fight in terms of collateral damage. So while we should absolutely be aggressive in attacking ISIL, taking down their command and control, taking away their resources, taking away their fighters, at the same time, I don't think we should be killing innocent people, which would merely feed the narrative of ISIL at the same time. So I think the strategic approach is exactly right, which is we go after all those targets, but we do it in a uniquely American way, bringing our values to the fight with us. And I'm not saying you're suggesting we would do otherwise.
Always minimize collateral damage. I mean, that's what we do.
So I think today we have the right balance between collateral damage and destruction of the enemy. And I will tell you, our threshold for collateral damage increases with the value of the target we're going after. And, I can assure you, if we're going after Baghdadi's command and control network or some other critical node, then we will go after it as aggressively as necessary to make sure we're succeeding in the campaign.
So it was also reported that we weren't striking the oil trucks because we didn't want to hurt the truck drivers, and that we actually dropped leaflets on them to warn them before we hit them. If that's true, I just want to be clear. I mean, I've been involved in the targeting process at all levels. If you're driving a truck for a terrorist organization that's fueling them, you're a combatant. And can you just clarify what that is all about?
Well, I think, Congressman, we did do that. We did, because we assessed that the majority of the truck drivers were, in fact, just people trying to make a living in the region. A little bit different than an enemy combatant from our perspective.
So you don't consider them combatants?
We don't. What we were able to do is separate them from their vehicles and destroy the trucks, which is what we wanted to do.
Okay. Last question is it your assessment, General Dunford, that the A-10 has been critical to the fight when it comes to these strikes? It was reported with the AC-130, especially on the trucks, and also their combat search and rescue capability. Is it your assessment they're critical to this fight?
The A-10's been a valuable platform in the fight.
Great. And do you consider this fight is going to go on for a while?
I do.
Great. Thank you. I yield back.